Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back. Today's video, I'm going to be talking about what happens when you get shot in the military. Now, I need to preface this entire thing by saying I was not shot in the military. This is purely training. So now that we have that out of the way, so nobody accusing me of stolen valor, I'm going to be talking about the specific training scenario when I was in the Marine Corps as a rifleman that I went through. So this one was meant to be as realistic as possible. It was in what's called the Infantry Immersion Trainer for the Marine Corps. I believe this is going to be pretty much the same for any branch, but riflemen in the Marine Corps, this is our job. It's practically in the name to be shot at. So the setting of this this whole training scenario, it's in Camp Pendleton, California. It's a beautiful place. And they have this multi-million-dollar facility where it looks like a city in Iraq, and it smells like it. And they also get civilian population in there so that actors, and they all pretend to be a civilian population. They just put infantry units in there, see how we react to not only fighting an insurgency within them, but also winning the hearts and minds and just patrolling around in a city with a populace attached. So right off the bat, I'm not going to be telling you how to treat a sucking chest wound. I'm not going to be telling you how to heal a severed leg or something like that. I'm going to be telling you my experience with getting shot in this training scenario, and which was supposed to be as realistic as possible. So anyway, yeah, let's get into it. I was the point man for this patrol into the city. Now, we ended up entering the city, and I did not see an IED that was right past the gate. And it wasn't, granted, we were in a column, it wasn't on my side, but still, I wasn't able to go and locate it as the point man. And because of that, the IED blew up in the middle of the column when half of us were in the city and half of us were still entering into the gate. Now, what ended up happening because of that IED blast, nobody was down because of it. It was a fake IED blast. It was just sort of a big puff of smoke, and we were like, oh shoot, contact. And again, not going into the nitty gritty, we ended up going into an alleyway. I led us into an alleyway. That was the only escape out of it, and I didn't want to get us caught in the open, so alleyway it was. Now, when we went into the alleyway, I remember it was super tight. And I'm already a small guy, but it was really tight with all the gear that we had and stuff. We were just sort of just cramping our way, easing our way into it. And at the end of this alleyway that was about 20 feet long, there was a T-shaped hallway. So on either side, there was another alleyway. So to the left and to the right. Now I had the decision, do I go left or right? And I decided to go left. So I turned left, and this is where it gets a little silly. I had never experienced being like truly fearful of getting attacked or whatever. Because training, a lot of times is just shooting at targets. But now we've got actual people with AKs, with blanks. Obviously it's not gonna hurt us, but I could still see the muzzle flash, and that's what happened. I turned left, and I saw the muzzle flashes just in automatic going straight towards me at this doorway that was 20 feet down the alleyway, and I got lit up. So I was like, oh! And fight or flight response, mine I found out was flight naturally. Big surprise, right? I think a lot of us are flight. And I found out it was flight. So I was like, and then I let off a couple shots, but I'm like, you know what, he totally got me. So I dropped to the ground, and I was shot in the neck. There was an instructor that was right behind us because my entire platoon was behind me. And the instructor was like, hey, you're shot in the neck. And basically that just means I have to act it out. So I'm there, and I'm grabbing my neck, I'm like, and it was really brutal. And everybody, all the Marines are rushing on top of me. So that's the first thing that happens when you get shot, is Marines will go to fight and kill the enemy that just killed you. Unless he's like 500 yards out, they're gonna try and seek and destroy that enemy, because while they're helping you, if they're like, instead of going into that doorway and killing that enemy, and they just start treating me because I'm just on the ground like panicking and stuff, they could get shot themselves while they're tending me. So the first response is Marines will go and rush towards the enemy and eliminate them and make the scene a little more clear. Now, as soon as they did that, there's Marines just piling over me while I'm laying on the ground. They're like stepping on my shoulder and my flak and just trying to get over me to get to the enemy. They end up killing the enemy, and they end up coming back, and they're like, get Weatherholt out of the alleyway. So my name's Weatherholt, by the way. They end up grabbing me, and they put me on their shoulder, and they carry me into the building that was in that doorway at the end of the alleyway. Now when I got there, they plopped me down, and they said, this is the new CCP, which is a casualty collection point. Now we had already taken a little more casualties than just me, just like those weren't as bad as mine getting shot in the neck. But I was the worst one, so they're going to be treating right off the bat. The corpsmen, the medics, are going to be going to the casualty collection point, which they designate, which is going to be this house, and they start treating anybody that's wounded. Now, I had the most severe one, but I'm not like shot in the head where I'm like, it's severe where I'm dead. It's like severe enough where I can still live. So he starts treating me first, while the other guys are just tending to their own wounds, you know, having a buddy give aid to them. So I was being treated by a corpsman. He was wrapping stuff around my underneath my armpit into my neck, trying to get like pressure bandages on me and all this stuff. Again, I won't go into that too much. And meanwhile, this was the weirdest thing. They actually ended up, because the whole reason that we were in the city was to go and hunt down the specific person, which is probably why we got ambushed. Now, we actually found that person and we brought him into the CCP. And we actually, they gave us a face. They actually gave us a face of what that person looks like. And we didn't realize that that was the person we were going after. Now, that person was panicking. He was like, you know, he was in the CCP now, and he was just like, he was screaming hysterically, and he was a really good actor, and he was just looking around. He was like grabbing me. He was grabbing my arm and stuff, and I was like getting treated by the corpsman, and the corpsman's just like working on me. The Marines are supposed to keep us separate. Now, the corpsman was like, get that guy away from us, and you know, I'm treating my Marine. So the corpsman, being the medic, he ends up like pushing that guy away, and the Marines start like, you know, had to almost tackle the guy to the ground because the guy's just going berserk. So hopefully you have an idea of the timeline of events here. Killing the enemy, getting me to this casualty collection point, treating me, separating me from the enemy combatants that are injured to the us, and also doing it in order of severity of injury. So after I got treated for this, they had me sustained, and after that, they actually ended up calling in a medevac. Now this was a wheeled medevac, so it was a giant armored truck, which I had never seen before, and it was so cool. It looked like a giant triangular ambulance, if you can picture that, triangular. And what they did next was the instructor actually said, hey, this guy is now bleeding profusely, which is me, and he's losing blood. And what that meant for us is that even though we're in a desert of 120 degrees, like actually in like Camp Pendleton, California, it gets really hot. They actually said, just like Iraq, you're going to be putting this guy in a, what is that called? Like aluminum foil sort of looking thing that just keeps the heat inside you. And he covered me in this aluminum foil blanket. They laid me on a stretcher, and they tried to put it underneath me as well. So I was just covered. I was like a little like hot dog in a bun, in the aluminum foil. That's probably what I look like. Now, you know, they carried me on a stretcher, put me in the ambulance after they secured the area, and inside this ambulance, this is made for a mass casualty scenario of like 5 Marines or more. And in this ambulance, me and the 2 other people who were hit ended up getting stowed away into these tiny little, like, there's like a little like place you can put the stretchers. And like, I'm a small guy, again, I already said this, but like the next stretcher that was above me was like literally this close. So I couldn't raise my head or anything, which is probably a good thing, because if I was unconscious and I wake up and I do this, maybe I had like a lower back injury, so, you know, that's probably for the better. Now at this point, again, what they do if you're injured and you start like having those, like you start passing out and stuff, is they take away your rifle. Because if you wake up and you're scared and you're like, whoa, what's going on? Because obviously you were out of it, you might grab that rifle and instinctively shoot somebody. So they take away your rifle at that point, and they start riding me. As soon as they get the 3rd stretcher in there and they close the armored doors, they ride me off to the actual medical facility in the back, in the rear. Now this facility is air conditioned. It is, but it's not like a building. It's more of a tent that has like a ground and sides, and it's like a building, but it's a tent. If that makes sense. It was air conditioned and everything. And inside this place, they put me on a stretcher and they put me on this operating table. And I was like, oh shoot, like this is as real as it gets. And the corpsmen, there was about 4 of them there. They all started treating me, and they were being given commands by the person who was instructing them, saying like, oh, okay, like Weatherholt, you're now, you know, you're going in and out of consciousness. You say you have pain in your neck and your lower back, and then they're like, oh, they have to make sure I don't have a lower back injury. Like, you know, they were like being told all these things, and they're gonna check for everything at that point. So if you're shot, you're gonna be taken to this facility in the rear, as long as there's a medevac available, and you're gonna be treated for everything, making sure that there's no injuries other than just the neck shot that was very noticeable at the start of this whole evacuation. So once they treated me there, the training stopped, and that was really it. So obviously at that point I would either be escalated to a different higher up medical facility, maybe in like way back in Kuwait, you know, if I was in Iraq, or like maybe in Germany. I know they fly people out to Germany if it's really bad injuries. But at this point, they just stopped the scenario, and that's where we left off. So hopefully this gives you an idea of what would happen if you were to get shot in combat in, you know, Iraq or something. This was definitely an eye-awakening thing. I definitely had second thoughts about having that instinctive fighting versus flight, you know, because obviously that ended up getting me killed. So yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. If you did, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. And comment down below what your thoughts are. If you're a wounded veteran who is in combat, please leave a comment, like what your experience was, if this kind of relates to that. I'm curious. And so yeah, anyway, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.